If you're anything like me, then you're a big fan of using any form of lightning abilities in games. And when I unlocked the Archon Archetypes final ability Havoc, I immediately fell in love with it. Now there's been a lot of ups and downs with Havoc, but after all the changes this skill has gone through, I believe that I've made one of the best damage builds for Havoc. So, welcome to my build guide for the Palpatine. The sole focus of this build is maximizing the amount of damage you can do with Havoc. Whilst you can use this as a roaming loadout, I recommend using something else for traversing the landscapes and saving this one for bosses. If you do need a great roaming build, then go check out my Ritualist build video that I did last week. It'll be up in the top right of your screen or something. The biggest drawback with this build is that it's massively focused on elemental damage, and so any bosses that have elemental resist will obviously stand a better chance against the build. However, in saying that, the amount of damage you can do with this build makes elemental resist seem like a smaller reduction than most other Havoc builds. If you find that you don't have some of the items in this build and you need some guides to help you find them, then head over to Abbey Hour or Luna Gaming on YouTube for some amazing Remnant 2 guides. If you still can't find what you're looking for, then head over to remnant2.wiki.fextralife.com. They'll have everything you need in order to find the items in this build. Now, without any further delay, let's get into the build. To start things off, the archetypes you'll want to have in the build are Engineer and of course Archon. Place Engineer into your prime archetype slot with Havoc in your secondary slot. Engineer gives all skills an additional 50% damage, which is going to be crucial for maximizing your Havoc's damage output. The prime perk also allows you to overdrive your turret, giving it a faster fire rate, more damage, and also infinite ammo for a short time. This is going to help to keep more consistent damage on bosses whilst you move around using Havoc. The armor in this build is completely up to you, but personally for most of my builds, I use the Field Medic helmet, the Labyrinth mantle, the Dendroid leggings, and the Labyrinth gauntlets. But once again, this isn't crucial to the build at all. The weapons in this build are also completely up to you. Since the main focus is on Havoc, the weapons are very secondary, and so there aren't any specifics. I personally change my weapons regularly with this build, dependent on bosses, so go nuts with whatever you want to use. Feel free to use any relic at all with this build, it's really up to you. However, just make sure that you have the elemental damage, skill duration, and skill damage runes slotted into your relic. This will help push the Havoc damage to maximum. Personally, I like to use the Resonating Heart because of its overhealth ability that can keep healing you whilst Havoc is active. Now with all the base elements in place, let's get to the meaty section of the build. For the amulet, you want the Silver Ribbon. This is going to increase your skill damage by 25%. A crucial aspect for this build. Along with this, you'll also gain haste when activating a skill, which will give you a short speed boost after popping Havoc. The first ring you want is the Burden of the Destroyer. Whilst this reduces your ideal firearm range by 65%, you gain a very beneficial 15% damage increase. The next ring you'll want is the Grounding Stone. This will increase your shock damage by 10%, which is obviously beneficial for Havoc since it's a shock-based ability. You then want the Ring of the Skylist. This would decrease your reserve ammo by 25%, but it will give you a further 15% increase to the damage of your skills. For the fourth and final ring, you want the Stone of Continuance. This will increase your skill duration by 25%, which will massively help in pushing out bigger amounts of damage. Now with all the equipment of the build out of the way, let's move on to the traits. Now just like with my last build, there are some traits that are crucial and others that don't really matter. So just like last time, I'll go through the crucial traits first before going through the remaining traits that I've paired in this build. With Engineer and Archon active, you'll automatically have Flash Caster and Fortify, giving you a boost to the cast speed of your skills along with an increase to the effectiveness of your armor. Putting 9 points into Expertise to max it out will give you a 20% reduction to your skill cooldowns, which will help you get Havoc back faster and keep dealing damage to bosses. Now, I would say that this is crucial so long as you have the Resonating Heart, but putting 10 points into Triage will increase the relic effectiveness by 50%. The reason I say this is crucial but not necessary is just because I like to pop a relic before using Havoc, since you can't use any relics whilst the skill is active. And so the Resonating Heart will give health back to the player over 20 seconds, using its overhealth ability that doubles any healing given to the player past returning to max health. Adding onto Triage, putting 10 points into Siphoned will give you a helpful 3% of lifesteal, which can help keep you alive whilst using Havoc. Then, putting 10 points into Barkskin will help with damage reduction, giving you a higher chance of survival whilst using Havoc. The rest of the points are completely up to you. However, I like to put 10 points into strong back, 10 points into amplitude, 10 points into regrowth, 8 points into vigor, and 8 points into endurance. And that's it. That's the build. With this build, your skill damage will be massively increased and you'll be dealing insane amounts of damage to bosses across all difficulties. The damage output of this build is insane and can easily one-phase most bosses on Survivor and Veteran. On the higher difficulties, you won't necessarily one-phase bosses, but you'll be dealing a crazy amount of damage that can take half the health of some bosses on Apocalypse. I'm a sucker for lightning abilities in games and I absolutely love this build, and had a blast messing around and finding the highest amount of damage I could. I hope you enjoy this build as much as I do, and hope you enjoy unleashing your new unlimited power across the different worlds of Remnant 2. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more gaming content, including more Remnant 2 builds and videos, then make sure to like and subscribe. If you got through the whole video and didn't enjoy, then thank you anyway for giving it a watch. I've been Deli, thank you so much for watching, stay classy guys, peace.